Hello, good day. I am the reporter 6. I am Adi Nicole L. Kadungog and I will be the first one to tackle about item analysis on test development. So for our topic outline, for my topic outline, it is item analysis, item difficulty index, item reliability index, item validity index, and the item discrimination index. For my intended learning outcome, it is to learn about item analysis and understand the tools test developers might employ to analyze and select items. So after administering the test to the test takers, results will be obtained and used to analyze items. Item analysis is the act of analyzing responses to individual test questions with the intention of evaluating the test quality. So it is important tool to uphold test effectiveness and fairness. In addition, item analysis allows test developers to select the best items for the final form of the test and actually identify structural and content defects in the items. So the criteria for the best items may differ on the test developer's objective on what the test developers wants to unravel. So for example, one test developer might deem to best items to be those that optimally contribute to the internal reliability of the test, while other test developer might wish to design a test with the highest possible criterion related validity and then select items accordingly. Among the tools that test developers might employ to analyze and select items are the item difficulty index, the item reliability index, the item validity index, and the item discrimination index. And we will going to tackle those four mentioned individually. First is the item difficulty index. The item difficulty index is one of those most useful and most frequently reported item analysis statistics. So if everyone gets the item right and it means that the item is too easy. However, if everyone gets the item wrong, it means that the item is too difficult. So the lowercase italic p is used to denote item difficulty, and the subscript refers to the item number. So example of this is the P1 is read as item difficulty index for item 1. Now, the value of an item difficulty index can theoretically range from 0, which means no one get the item right, to 1, which means everyone got the item right. So the larger the item difficulty index, the easier the item. So because the P, which is the item difficulty index, refers to the percent of people passing an item, the higher the P of the item, the easier the item. Now, in calculating the item difficulty, so this is the formula. The item difficulty index is equal to the number of students who were correct over the total number of students. Sorry, I was not able to put a line in the middle of the number of students and the total number of students. So, for example, 75 people out of 100 got it right in item 1 for a 100 item test, and 50 people out of 100 got it right in the item 2. So in calculating that item difficulty, first is the item 1, which is denoted by P1, is equal to 75 because 75 people got it correct in item 1 over the total number of students, which is 100. So the item difficulty index of item 1 is 0.75. Now, the item 2, denoted by P2, is equal to 50 over 100. Since 50 people in 50 students got it right with a total of 0.50 item difficulty index. So, we mentioned earlier that the higher the item difficulty index, the easier the exam. or the easier the item. So this means that item 1 is much more easier than item 2. Depending on the result of item difficulty for every item in a test, actions must be done, especially if the range of the difficulty index ranges from 0 to 0.25, which means that it is very difficult and needs revision or disregard the item. And also, if it is too easy, which ranges from 0.76 above, revision and revision or actually discarding the item is needed. Test developers only retain item with a difficulty index ranging from 0.26 to 0.75, which since it represents that the item has the right difficulty. So item difficulty index, however, could not be used in testing personality because it only measures what is right and personality could neither be right nor wrong. So item endorsement index is used in this kind of text. Sa mga personality test, ang ginagamit is endorsement o item endorsement index. So what is item endorsement index? Item endorsement index is the value that refers to the proportion of the people who endorses an item. For example, they check true rather than the proportion who got the item correct. So if a test is a multiple choice, optimal item difficulty should be obtained o kaya yung the ideal difficulty of the item. So optimal level difficulty is obtained by summing the chance success proportion and 1 and then dividing the sum by 2 given the guessing is present. So yung pag-guess daw, if it is 5 select 5 choices, multiple choice. So ang example natin dito is 0.5 kasi nga it is a 5 option multiple choice plus 1, which is the standard, is equal to 1.5. So itong 1.5, i-divide natin siya sa 2, which is 0.60. So explanation dito is, if it is a 5 option multiple choice, the probability of guessing correctly on any of item on the basis of chance alone is equal to 1/5 or 0.20. So the optimal item difficulty is therefore 0.60. Now, next item is the item reliability index. So the item reliability index provides an indication of the internal consistency of a test. So the higher the index, the higher the test internal consistency. So this index is equal to the product of the item score standard deviation. So itong item score standard deviation, malalaman natin ang paano siya kukunin mamaya, and the correlation between the item score and the total test score. So like the other statistics in item analysis report, item reliability is used primarily to inform decision about item retention o kaya hindi siya i-retain. Now this is an example. So as you can see, yung mga nasa inside the circle o oval na blue, those are the best items for maximizing internal consistency reliability. So, medyo maliit lang siya compared sa maraming dots o maraming items in that graph. So, factor analysis and inter-item consistency. So, another way of knowing the inter-item consistency is through factor analysis. It is a statistical tool useful in determining whether items on a test appears to be measuring the same things is what is the factor analysis. So, through factor analysis, items that do not appear to be measuring what they were designed to measure can be revised or eliminated. So, ang goal ng factor analysis and the item reliability index is the same. So, if too many items appears to be topping a particular area, the weakest of such item can be eliminated. So, in factor analysis, it eliminates those weak items that actually top a particular area. However, retain those strong items that actually are very useful in the test. So the next item index is the item validity index. So what is item validity index? It is a statistical design designed to provide an indication of the degree of which a test is measuring what it purports to measure. So the higher the item validity index, the greater the test criterion related validity. So in calculating the item validity index, the two statistics must be known first. So what are these statistics? First is the item score standard deviation. Second is the correlation between the item score and the criterion score. So in calculating the item validity index, the correlation between the score of an item and a score on the criterion measure um, multiplied to the item score standard deviation. So calculating the item validity index will be important when the test developer's goal is to maximize the criterion related validity of the test. So that is the formula in calculating the item validity index. Now, this is the visual representation of the best items on a test, especially if the objective is to maximize criterion-related validity. And it can be achieved by plotting such items in item validity index and the item reliability index. So, those items or those dots na nasa loob ng blue oval are the best items for maximizing criterion-related validity and should be retained. So the final topic in my um the final topic in my report is the item discrimination index. So is a measure of item discrimination symbolized by a lower case italic D. So this estimate of item discrimination is essence compares performance of a particular item with performance in the upper and lower regions of the distribution of continuous test scores. So it measures the difference between the proportion of high scorer answering an item correctly and the proportion of low scorers answering the item correctly. So the higher the value of D, the greater the number of high scores answering the items correctly. So a negative D value on a particular item is a red flag because it indicates that low-scoring examinees are more likely to answer the item correctly than the high-scoring examinees. So this situation calls for some action such as revising or eliminating the item. The highest possible value of the item discrimination index is +1, while the lowest is -1. In calculating the item discrimination index, the upper and lower 27% of the test examinees must be known. So if it is normally distributed. However, as a distribution of test scores become more platycortic or the flatter, the optimal boundary line for defining upper and lower increases to near 33%. However, Allen and Yen, 1979, assure us that for most applications, any percentage between 25 and 33 will yield similar estimates. So, paano natin makukuha ang 27% of the upper and lower? You will first arrange the scores from the highest to lowest, and then um you will get the 27% by summing 0.27, summing actually multiplying 0.27 times the number of participants in the examination. So to calculate the item discrimination index, the item discrimination index is equal to the upper 27% of the distribution of scores minus the lower 27% of the distribution of scores over n, which is the number of examinees. So here is the examples given. As you can see, there are items, upper limit, lower scores, U minus L, and number of examinees. So in item 1, got an item discrimination index of 0.13. So sundan nyo lang po yung ating mga numbers sa screen. With this result, it is reasonable item because more member of the upper group were correct than the lower group. The item 2 is better than item 1. Why? Because it yielded 0.63 discrimination index. So item 3 has a discrimination index equal to 1, which means that all members of the upper group answered the item correctly while all members of the lower group answered the items incorrectly. Now item 4 with 0.00 does not discriminating between the test takers at all. Ito namang item 5 with item discrimination index of -1 indicates that all members of the upper group answered the item incorrectly while all members of the lower group are correct. So itong item 5, it should be under ma-under siya sa revision o kaya i-eliminate na itong item na ito. Analysis of item alternatives. So like the factor analysis that we tackled earlier, analysis of item alternatives could also be used. So the quality of each alternative within a multiple choice item can be readily accessed with reference to the comparative performance of the upper and lower scorers. So a computation is not needing in analysis of item alternatives. So only by charting the number of test takers in the upper and lower groups who chose each alternative, the test developer can get an idea of the effectiveness of a distractor by means of simple eyeball test. So a distractor, what is a distractor? It is the potential answer but are incorrect. So they are in choices together with the key or the answer if it is a multiple choice. So to clearly understand, I have 5 examples here of the analysis of item alternative. So understand that with the symbol that the letter with the symbol diamond next to it denotes the right answer. So as you can see in the item 1, the upper group answers 24 in A, which means that there are 24 correct answers, while the lower group only has 10. So the response pattern to item 1 indicates that the item is a good one. More upper group members than lower group members answered the item correctly, and each of the distractors attracted some test takers. So it also means that the item 1 should be retained. The next item, item 2, the correct answer here is E, with the upper group and 12 in the upper group answered correctly, while 7 in the lower group answered correctly. So item 2 signals a situation in which a relatively large number of members of the upper group choose a particular distractor choice. So in this case is the letter B. So this item could probably be improved upon revision, preferably one made after an interview with some of all the upper students who choose the B. So the test developer might conduct an interview after the examination has been after the test has been conducted to understand bakit nagkamali yung mga upper group in that item. So revision and paano nila ma-revise yung item na yun to make it better by interviewing some of the upper group students. Now for item 3, 32 of the examinees from the upper group answered the item 3 correctly, while 22 from the lower group answered the item correctly. So the item 3 indicates a most desirable pattern of test taker response. So all members of the upper group answered the item correctly, and each distractor attracted one or more members of the lower group. Now for the item 4, that the correct answer is B, with 15 members from the upper group answered it correctly, while only 5 members from the lower group answered it correctly. So at item 4 is more difficult than Item 4 is more difficult than item 3. Fewer examinees answered it correctly. Still, this item provides a useful information because it effectively discriminates higher scoring from lower scoring examinees. Now, in this case, revisions could be done in the item kung paano siya mai-improve pa at masasagutan ng mga members ng upper group. Now, in item 5, with only 5 from the upper group who got it right, while 16 in the lower group got it right. Item 5 is a poor item because L group member or the lower group members has it correct than the upper group members. So this item is a poor item. So that ends my report. For the summary, item analysis is the act of analyzing responses to individual test questions in the intention of evaluating test quality. So depending on the goal of the test developer, these two should be used. There are many ways to analyze items in the test. Some of those are item difficulty index, with the notion that if everyone gets the item right, then the item is too easy. However, if everyone gets the item wrong, the item is too difficult. Item reliability index, it provides an indication of the internal consistency of the test. The item validity index is a statistic designed to provide an indication of the degree to which a test is measuring what it purports to measure. So on the other hand, estimates of item discrimination in essence compares performance of a particular item with performance in the upper and lower regions of the distribution of continuous test scores. For my reference, thank you very much, and I hope that you have learned from me today.